Thank you for being here this evening. Today is Tuesday, November 27th. It is 7:06 p.m., and I'd like to go ahead and call the November council meeting to order. If we could please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Councilperson Mathis.
Present.
Councilperson Dreyer.
Here.
Councilperson Roman.
Here.
You have a quorum. Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk. Christia Alou, Village Manager. Norman Powell, Interim Village Attorney. Jose Perez, Interim Chief. Irvin Williams, CFO.
Great, thank you. At this time, before I ask for approval of the agenda, the attorney asked that we move. So F1, which is the oath of office of the mayor and council, will be at the end after we read the resolutions, and the resolutions are adopted. So we are moving F1 to new business. And as a result of moving F1 to new business, we are also going to move agenda item H1 under new business. So new business is now going to be L1, which is the swearing in or the oath of office of the mayor and council. And then L2 would be the selection of the vice mayor. Is there any other changes from the council?
None.
Okay, hearing none. May I get a motion to approve the agenda with the two additions, the two changes that were made?
I move approval.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second? Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the agenda with the amendment has passed for November 27th. At this time, is there a motion to approve, actually better said, have you all had the opportunity to review the minutes for September 25th and the minutes to October 23rd? Okay. Hearing so, is there a motion to adopt the minutes for the September 25th regular council meeting?
I'll motion to adopt the minutes with some changes that I'll give to the clerk, because there were some edits that needed to be made.
Is it edits that need to be put on the record, or is
No.
it more grammatical?
More grammatical, and some of it was, I guess the recording didn't hear people properly, and, to carry on was actually carry on the person's name. So,
Okay, and you'll have it to the clerk by?
Today. Today and tonight, yeah.
Okay. So there is a motion to adopt the minutes for September 25th with some grammatical corrections by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dreyer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, hearing none, the minutes for September 25th with the amendments that Councilperson Mathis is going to the clerk passes. E2, the approval of the minutes for the October 23rd regular council meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes for the October 23rd council meeting?
Motion to adopt.
There is a motion made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. The second is by Councilperson Mathis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, the minutes for the October 23rd have been adopted. We're going to go right into F1, which is the introduction of Interim Chief Jose Perez. Madam Manager, you want to go ahead?
Welcome. I say that especially to the ladies and gentlemen standing in the back. I appreciate you coming out to support our introduction and selection of Interim Chief Jose Perez. He's been on the job for 1 week, and so far, so many changes have happened, and we are really happy to have him. Interim Chief Jose Perez comes to us from retirement. He was retired just a couple of months ago as a City of Miami Police major. He's held various positions over the last 27 years in law enforcement as a executive in terms of the major position. He was commander and training and personnel development commander. He was lieutenant in charge of shift and ship commander, sergeant, field operations and internal affairs, and a myriad of other responsibilities that can only bring good things to the Village of El Portal as we do a restructuring and a reorganization and address some of our deficiencies and really focus on improvements to provide the best public safety we can to our community. Interim Chief Perez is a father of 3 young ladies. He fits in well here with the staff, and we've got nothing but good comments about his work thus far, and we are very confident that he can lead us as we, as I said, reorganize, restructure, and address some of the deficiencies that have been recognized by our assessment team. So I want to welcome Interim Chief Jose Perez, and I ask that we all support him with a round of applause in welcome.
If you can join us, Interim Chief Perez to the podium. We also have Judge Peraza, who's going to be doing the swearing in this evening for you and for us. And if you want to go ahead and say a few words to our residents in the audience.
First of all, I'm honored. It's a privilege and humble to be here standing in front of you. But it's a great opportunity. And for 27 years in the city, I worked in almost every position at the police department, like Madam Manager said. I was in charge of the South District, in charge of Central District, the Director of Training. I have a lot of experience and hope to apply here to make it a bit better, safer community. That's my ultimate goal. Also like to thank my chiefs from the city of Miami. They're here. My other bosses when I was in briefly in FWC are here too, and everybody else, all my friends, all my co-workers for almost 30 years. So thank you for being here, all of you. I do solemnly swear that I will support, defend, and protect the Constitution of the Government of the United States and the state of Florida. That I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state. And I will well and faithfully perform the duties of Chief of Police. And I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the Chief of Police. And which I now am about to enter. So help me God.
One thing I wanted to point out, in the event for those that are not going to be here as the meeting goes on in the public safety report, you all will be receiving an email tomorrow from the clerk. There will be a public safety town hall on December 5th, which is a Wednesday at 7 o'clock. It's going to be the opportunity to hear some of the recommendations of implementations that the interim chief is going to recommend in terms of more visibility and efficiency throughout patrolling. And then it's an opportunity for as well as Q&A. Tonight probably won't be the opportunity, but I think he'll be here for the rest of the meeting. But that is Wednesday, December 5th at 7 o'clock here at the Village Hall. Okay, thank you. Sure.
Chief Perez, Interim.
Yeah, give me my pen. Next on the agenda is a proclamation. It's a little long, I apologize. For the last couple years, the Village of El Portal, we've done a proclamation every November. And in the last couple of years, there has been, unfortunately, more neighbors and residents that I've met that have passed away through pancreatic cancer. One of the residents, you all may have seen her because she used to walk everywhere, was Linda. Linda used to walk up and down Northeast 87th Street, and she lived right before you get to Northwest 2nd Avenue, the house that's now having a pool built in there. She passed away. I don't have her last name on me, but she passed away of pancreatic cancer. And the El Portal Women's Club, one of the members' mom also passed away of pancreatic cancer. And there's just so many. I was at an event, and someone saw my shirt that said El Portal, and they were like, oh my God, my friend lives on 90th Street, and she currently has pancreatic cancer. And she's the one who I was hoping would be here this evening to receive the proclamation, but she's unable to be here because she's not doing really well. So in honor and in memory of so many, whether it's members of our family, members of our community, members of our own community, the Village of El Portal, I want to read this proclamation, and I'm sorry it's just a little long, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. It's a proclamation declaring the month of November Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in the Village of El Portal. Whereas in 2018, an estimated 53,000 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and 43,000 will die from the disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest diseases, it is currently the third leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States and is projected to become the second in 2020. Pancreatic cancer is the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate in the single digits, just by 9%. And whereas when the symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is generally late stage, and 71% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of their diagnosis, while 91% of pancreatic patients die within 5 years of the diagnosis. Whereas pancreatic cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, largely because there are no detection tools to diagnose the disease in its early stages. And whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is the national organization serving the pancreatic cancer community and nationwide through a comprehensive approach that includes public policy, research funding, patient services, and public awareness and education related to developing effective treatments and hopefully a cure for this cancer. Whereas Pancreatic Cancer Action Network support those patients currently battling pancreatic cancer, as well as to those who have lost their lives to the disease and are committed to nothing less than a cure. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of the Village of El Portal are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, effective, and treatments. So therefore, as Mayor of the Village of El Portal, I do hereby designate the month of November 2018 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, proclaim this 27th day, November 2018, and it's in honor of Linda and Citra's mom and all the other residents in our community who have lost a member of the family to pancreatic cancer, so thank you. Alrighty, we have, first on the agenda, we have a resolution. Is the resolution 2018-29 is the fiscal year 17-18 final operation budget adoption. If I could please have the attorney read it into the record.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, adopting a final year budget amendment for fiscal year 2017-2018 and approving the transfers from budgeted line items, providing for an incorporation of recitals to take effect immediately.
Okay, thank you. We do have our Erwin here, so if you want to come up and give us a little synopsis. This is an annual amendment. We generally have to do an annual amendment to the operation budget, and it must always be done before the November 30th deadline.
Right. The final budget amendment has to be approved by the council before November 30th. The purpose of this final budget amendment is to make sure that at the end of the year, when we go through our fiscal audit, that each of our departments are not over budget, because that would be a finding on the audit. So these were the adjustments that had to be made in order to make sure that we did not go over for audit purposes.
Does the council has had the opportunity to ask Erwin any questions, and do we have any questions with the amendment to the budget? And this is for last fiscal year. This is not for this fiscal year. It's for last fiscal year.
Correct. And behind it, what I handed out was what the budget actual is after we approve this amendment. So you can see if you go through department by department, that we have not, that we are not over budgeted on overdrawn on each one of the specific department totals.
So do you mind walking us through this
You want to go
document?
through, the whole document?
No, just a quick summary.
The quick summary is that we have to transfer, we have to transfer $872,000 out of our general fund reserves in order to cover the budget, mainly due to two main items. One, of course, was the FEMA reimbursement, which was $2.3 million, offset by the line of credit, the line of credit revenue.
Maybe talk a little away from the microphone, because these are new, I think the audio is new, so they're pretty sharp.
How about now? Better now?
Yeah, just don't talk too close, because I think it's staticky.
Okay, so that was the major difference, Councilperson Garrett, was the FEMA reimbursement offset by the revenue we received from the line of credit. If you look at those net, they were $900,000. Our total budget amendments were $872,000. The others are just minor adjustments for each one of the departments, for specific line items that we have to adjust that we did not go over the budget for each department.
So, on the biggest item here, the 873, do you mind just, let's walk through the actual
Sure, if you-
document here?
Yeah, or actually, there's an easier way. If you look behind, there's a spreadsheet that was handed out,
Correct.
and the spreadsheet will show you what the adjustments were for each one of the departments.
All right, so we have 4 worksheets. Do you mind just specifying which worksheet should we be looking at?
The first one is the general fund. The very first page is the general fund.
Correct.
So as I indicated a few minutes ago, if you look at the second line, proceeds from the LOC from FCB Bank, you'll see there's an adjustment for $1,250,000, and that is so that we record the proceeds from the line of credit. And if you go to the second page and look at the first item on the last section, you'll see it says contractual services, $2,187,000. That is for the expenditures that we had from the hurricane cleanup. All the other items are going to be ins and outs, but those two items alone is $937, and the total transfer is $872. The other is just miscellaneous in and out. But this is an amendment that we have to pass in order to be in compliance and to make sure that we don't have any findings at the end of the year. I mean, we can go into detail, but I don't think it's necessary to go line by line
No.
on each one. I
Just
think
get a
that-
general understanding.
yeah, the critical is to look at the bottom line of each department to see what the final budgeted amount is and what the actual is, and that we're not over in any one of the departments.
And I just think for point of clarity, for the audience and for the council is, this is not money we're taking out right now. This is money that has been taken out throughout the year, and we're doing the amendment to be able to balance the budget. Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
it's not a cash transfer.
Yeah.
It's a transfer from what we call fund balance. We have to take it out of our fund balance in order to balance the budget.
And no one single department is over at all. It was just the totality based on IRMA for the most part.
Right, well, Public Works is the worst
Well,
worst
because of
department
IRMA, yeah.
because that's where all the IRMA expenditures came out of, and that's when we have to make the major
And
adjustments.
if we look at each department was actually, I think, under in terms of expenses. None of them were over.
Yes,
Yeah.
most of them were under. It was mainly Public Works and a few of the others that we had to adjust because of expenditures that just were not budgeted for
Yeah.
at the beginning of the budget year.
And since the village is audited every year, we self-audit, this is part of what's necessary for the audit to go through, as you all are in the process of doing it for like next May or so, correct?
Right, when the auditors come in, if we didn't do this, there would be for every department that's over budget, there would be a finding on the audit report.
Any questions for Erwin? Any questions? No? to adopt Resolution 2018-29. It's been moved by Councilperson Roman and second by Councilperson Mathis. I'm going to go ahead and close the council meeting, open up for public comments. If anybody wants to come up and ask a question with regards to Resolution 2018-29, which is our annual final operation budget adoption. If you have a question, you can come up about this item. Okay.
We don't have that to go through, so we're really ignorant of what you're talking about. It wasn't given to anybody. So you're asking us now to give our comments, and unfortunately we can't.
Okay, would you like a copy?
Yes, we would. Thank you. I don't, anybody else like that?
You have an extra copy?
Thank you very much.
No problem. I apologize, you all don't have it. You can take a moment to take a look at it. And while you are doing that, I will just go ahead and just reiterate. This is the budget for last fiscal year that we discussed at every single council meeting for the most part. This is just, there's one right here. You have another one? You want to maybe walk them through it a little bit, if they've,
So they know what
since
they're
they have it
looking
in front of them?
Like what they're seeing in the first item. You don't have to go line by line.
I'm going to close the public comments and open it back to the council and ask Erwin to please walk them through this briefly. Erwin, do you want to just go through just the top portion, which is the at a glance?
You talking sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each one of the sections?
I'm sorry?
You talking about all the sections?
No,
But they
there's a point that just go through the departments, but at a glance. Just to give
The
them
one they
a
have
brief
is the one
synopsis
that
as
you
they're
gave me.
looking at. I mean, keep in mind, if this is the first time you're looking at the document, it's difficult to understand, but this is a document that we've discussed at every single council meeting the last fiscal year, because we discussed the budget at every meeting, Admin and Finance Committee, as well as the council meetings. And it's also posted on the website. So it'd be a little probably hard to understand it this evening if it's the first time you're looking at it.
Okay, so we're going to look at the spreadsheet then, and I'm going to go to the second section. This is Finance and Administration first. Looking at the major items there, one was the legal retainer, because we went from a actual to a fixed retainer midway through the year, which required us to do a budget amendment for that line. We spent extra money for the lobbyists in the last fiscal year, so we had to adjust that by $18,000. The grant writer was over by $12,000, but a lot of that money was used for the stormwater project. So it's a little misleading to see here, but a lot of it was for the consulting work that was done on the stormwater submission on the projects that we're working on. Going down to the master plan consultant, that we had budgeted 60, we only spent 46, so we took 10,000 off. We reduced the budget by 10,000 because we had over budgeted on that line item. Village clerk is very, very small. There's really not much to say about the village clerk budget. There were just two small items. One was we had not budgeted for the video recordings and transcripts, so that required a $3,300 adjustment. And we had to do extra advertising, which resulted in spending $50 to $100 more on that specific line item. Turning the page, we're looking at the police department. The reason we buy new cars and the reason we bought new cars last year is that these police cars, the older cars, keep breaking down. We had budgeted $10,000 in repairs for the year, and we came in at $17,000. So we had to adjust our line item on police budget for repairs by $7,000. Bullets and vests, they made the determination that all officers needed new vests, so we had a $1,500 budget. We came in at $6,300, so that required a $4,900 adjustment, and it was not for bullets, it was all for vests that we had to make that adjustment. Looking further down, building permits, you'll see a $20,000 negative. As you recall, we collect half the fees that are collected, the revenues. Whatever the revenues are, we keep 20%. Well, our revenue budget, we collected $40,000 less than we anticipated, so we had to pay out $20,000 less to the consultant. So that's why you see the $20,000 adjustment. The biggest department we had all the changes, as I talked earlier, was the Public Works Department. The $2.18 million was the payments we had to make for the FEMA reimbursement for the Irma cleanup, which came to $2,187,000. Obviously, we didn't budget anything for that at the beginning of the year. No one knew the hurricane was going to hit. Repairs to the Village Hall we had to make was a $17,000 adjustment. And the transfer out you see here, which was to the Stormwater Fund, that is because that on the monies we got for the stormwater projects, on the grant, they only cover 80% of the project. So we have to cover the 20% balance. So this is money transferred to make sure that the revenues coming in match the outflows of expenditures that are going up. So that's the $327,500 transfer. You see that. Now, it's not a transfer, it's a transfer to one of the other funds. It was a transfer to the Stormwater Fund. Turning the page, that's just a reallocation where it says FEMA reimbursement. We had originally budgeted in a different department, so we're just removing it for that $425,000. The same thing on the cleanup, on the Irma cleanup. This was originally budgeted. When we budgeted at the beginning of the year, we put it into that department, but when we actually did the expenditures and revenue, it was budgeted through the Public Works, which is a different department, so we just took it out. Turning the page. This is the special revenue reserves. Again, the increases you see are all what I talked earlier about. Here you can see that $327 that I mentioned to you, which was a transfer out from the general fund, and the proceeds of the loan, the state grant, and the $175,000 loan that we also received from the state. The expenditures down below, the main ones were for 3 projects. They were for the El Jardín project, for the stormwater facility plan, and for the septic to sewer project is what you see all the expenditures here for $744,000. And again, we didn't know we were going to get it at the beginning of the year, so during the year as we received the grants and we started to work on the projects, we have to budget for those expenditures.
Quick question. You mentioned something about the stormwater. What was the total cost again?
We transferred $327,000.
The total cost, how much was it for the stormwater?
Beg your pardon?
How much was the total cost for the stormwater?
It was $435. I think it was $435 on one and $175 on the. Robert,
Yeah, but when you're asking stormwater, are you asking septic to sewer, or are we asking the El Jardín stormwater project?
Septic to sewer.
The septic, okay.
Septic to sewer was $435.
No, that's the design phase. 435.
Right.
So.
Well, we're only budgeting for what's taken.
Stormwater, it's once. I'm not following on that logic.
The 435 and the 175 are both in the stormwater fund. The fund is called stormwater. I really don't understand what you don't understand.
I'm just trying to get what you just stated on the stormwater. Honestly, we just got this, as I understand from the clerk, this information, and we haven't had enough time to actually review this information, so I would didn't have the copy here, so I would definitely appreciate if we have more time. That's my, my request from everybody.
Well, a couple of comments. One is that this is not something I prepared yesterday. This has been available. I submitted it about 10 days ago, so it's not that it wasn't available, it hadn't been distributed. Typically, we haven't gone in detail when we have the final budget amendment. Again, this is not budgeting to spend money. What we're doing here is we're just budgeting to make sure that the budget is balanced.
Correct, and part of that transferring, you just stated an amount regarding the stormwater, which is not clear to me. So you're asking us to approve all this transfer when we still have a question. So I would appreciate it if we could have some time to disseminate, go back to you and kind of look over in more detail.
You have no time because
Oh, okay.
it has to be passed by the 30th. So today's the 27th. So if it doesn't pass tonight, we're not going to be in compliance.
Okay.
What, please, give me 1 second. Okay, so, I don't, before I say anything, what was your exact question to Erwin?
What was the total cost for a stormwater project for the septic
Which
sewer
one?
project?
435 in this fiscal year was 435.
No, and I'm gonna ask it, perhaps the project manager who knows this information, or the engineering firm, the stormwater. What was the total cost?
How much the sewer to septic was, the total cost.
The total cost spent in the fiscal year that we're addressing.
Septic to sewer, 435.
That's for the design phase,
Correct.
but you were talking about the stormwater, which the stormwater is 130. Are we
175.
mixing? 175.
Apparently-
But you just stated it was
Apparently,
435.
he has both projects in the stormwater fund.
Right, they're both in the same fund.
But one is septic to sewer, one is stormwater.
The planning, the facility planning is the 175. The 435 is the septic to sewer. And the Eau Jardine is the allocation that we spent from the Eau Jardine project. But they're all sitting in the stormwater fund.
All right.
And it's earmarked because the bills get paid when we get the money from the state.
We
don't-
approved.
When the bill comes in, it goes to the state, and then we get the bill, and then that's how we pay it, because the state has put the money in the account.
Correct, and we approved, that's what, based on our individual one-on-ones we have from the council. That's what was explained with Christian. Is that correct, Christian?
What is the question? What was explained on the individuals? I don't understand.
Can you clarify your question, please? What's the question?
The question is, based on the comment that was just made, that we approved the money from the state once we get that grant money.
There's two projects that was monies allocated by the state. So we have $500,000, and that's the El Jardín, that was done through lobbying efforts, and that is El Jardín, also stormwater project. And then we have the septic to sewer, and this is all monies that was spent in the last fiscal year. But these projects, when we paid the vendor, it was after monies was received. So the vendor sends the invoice to the state, and the invoice can say 100,000, 110, and then the money's come in the bank, and then that's what we paid. If we've paid anything more, maybe it's this fiscal year, but based on 17-18 fiscal year, that is what, that's the amendment to the budget that we're looking at.
Yeah, we pay the vendor once we know that the state has paid us and we've drawn down the funds, and then we pay the vendor. So this money is not coming out of the general fund, it's coming out of the earmarked funds from the state.
And that's why they're in a special revenue fund.
Any other questions? I also want to just clear up one thing. Everyone here sees the large expenditure for the Irma cleanup. But the reason we don't show the revenue now is because under the rules, we are not allowed to accrue the revenue we're going to get until FEMA obligates the funds. So what's going to happen next year? If FEMA obligates it in our next fiscal year, we'll have another budget amendment mid-year again because we're going to get $2.3 million back in to replenish our reserves.
So to wrap up, I think what Councilor Dre's concern was, the design cost is $435, correct?
For the design phase.
For the design phase, okay.
Not, that's stormwater is something separate.
And then the stormwater was
Yes.
about 135?
175.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
175. And then would the stormwater design also include the planning phase for the facility master plan?
Yes.
So it's fair to say that 132 plus 55 is that 177? No, it's 187?
No, they're different things. The facility master plan was 55 plus hold on one second now.
So could it not be, if the stormwater facility design was 175, correct? So could it not be that in the last fiscal year, because I think I see what he's looking at, because it says here facility design.
It's not design, it's plan. I'm
Sorry,
it's
plan. So the stormwater facility design, what was paid out last fiscal year was 132. Maybe in this fiscal year, the balance to 175 has been paid?
No, the full 175
Was paid
this
last
year.
fiscal year?
Yes, last fiscal year, yes. Yes.
Okay, because if it was paid the entire last fiscal year, it's saying here that the expenditures for the design was 132. So if it's not, that's why I was looking at, is the 55,000 included in the 132? That would be 187 though.
Hold on.
I'm looking at the last page, where it says expenditures.
Yeah, it means
What's
that
broken down?
it means we spent slightly more than the proceeds we got from the loan from
Okay.
the state. That's what it means.
So that's why I was asking, so the facility master plan, planning and the stormwater facility design would be encompassing the 175 that Councilperson Dre was
That
asking?
is correct.
And it's obviously a little
It
over,
was
so.
187 versus
187.
175 because of some miscellaneous charges that we had to absorb.
And then the design El Jardín is completely different, that comes from the
That's
half
a
a
straight
million.
allocation.
But last fiscal year, we paid out 115.
Right.
So we still have a positive balance left for the El
That
Jardín
is
project.
correct, for the second phase.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Arun Williams? Okay, hearing none, there is a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-29, which is the 17-18 budget operation budget. Is there any discussion from the council? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk, can I get roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
No.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. Next we have is, we have I-2, which is Resolution 2018-30, which is the general election results. Oh, I'm sorry, Attorney King, take it into the record.
A resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, authorizing the Miami-Dade Canvassing Board to serve as canvassing board for the general election of El Portal held on November 6, 2018, setting an effective date.
Madam Clerk, I know this is, there's two resolutions on here with regards to the elections. Anything you want to elaborate on with this resolution? So the standard operating procedure that after every election, we must pass a resolution adopting that we accept the election from the state results and
That's
from the
correct.
county. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-30? Motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Roman. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, can I get roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Resolution 2018-31, candidates elected to office.
A resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida concerning the village general election of November 6, 2018, declaring qualified candidates elected to office, accepting and adopting the results for the offices of mayor and councilpersons as certified by Miami-Dade County Canvassing Board, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Eunice, this is also introduced by you. Anything you want to add to the resolution 2018-31?
No.
Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve 2018-31?
Move approval.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dreyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I have roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 to none.
Thank you. Is Juan here? Is Juan from Post Servia here?
He's outside.
Okay. We might tell them what the ordinance is next. Okay, next we have a second reading. It's ordinance 2018-06. It's the medical marijuana dispensaries. If I could please have the attorney read it into the record.
Yes, madam. An ordinance of the Village of El Portal, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Appendix B, Form-Based Code, Article 3, Uses, Table 1, Specific Function and Use, Section 24B.8, Definitions of Building Functions, Uses, and Article 6, Specific to Zones, Section 24-B.17, Zone 5, Z5, Urban Center, and Article 10, Definitions of Terms, in order to provide the conditions and requirements for the use of medical marijuana dispensaries and medical marijuana treatment centers, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts, repealer, severability, codification, and effective date.
Thank you. Welcome, Juan. For those of you who know, Juan Molaret is our urban planner, and he works with the code. Medical marijuana dispensary is an ordinance that has been in discussion for us for about a year now. So if you can just give the Cliff Note version to the audience and to us, but this is the second reading, and it did pass the council at the last council meeting.
Sure.
It did pass the ordinance at the last council meeting.
Quite briefly, we're using the same formula that is used in many municipalities for alcohol. So we are requiring a certain distance from a place of worship or a park or a civic place. It's only allowed on Z5, which is the highest intent of use, which would be to the east of the tracks. That's where our Z5 lies. And it would be precluded by 1,000 feet from, for instance, this location with a park right south of us, and a couple of churches that are in the city of Miami.
Any questions from the council to Juan before I open up to the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close the council and open up to public comments so they can be addressed to Juan or to any of us on this ordinance. Do you all have the ordinance in front of you? Does anybody need it?
It's on the thing.
It's on-
Just the whole thing is on there.
I'm just curious.
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Joanne Hennessy, 269 Northwest 86th Street.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm curious, just the way it's worded, it seems like there's nowhere that's not 1,000 feet from here and east of the track. Is there anywhere that still lies in El Portal that isn't that?
It's in the whole document.
It's in the what?
It's in the document, but it's not in that one. It's in the whole that's in with packets.
No, I know, I understand, but according to the urban planner, it's got your name, you said that the only locations that were allowed to be dispensaries are east of the track, but yet not within 1,000 feet of here. Or somewhere like this. Or a civic building. And is this a civic building? So what's left of El Portal? 1,000 feet east of here. So basically, I'm just curious.
Any other questions from the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close public comments. Does the council or manager have any questions for Juan? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to adopt? Did I ask for that? No, I didn't ask for that. Is there a motion to adopt or the second reading of ordinance 2018-06? Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion? I asked 100 times. Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilperson Dwyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
I'll stick with my no, no.
Mayor Cubillos.
No.
Mayor Cubillos.
No.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, I am what do we have next here? Oh, look at that. Okay. I am going to go ahead and start off with the manager's report. If you could please walk us through your report and for the audience as well.
And I'm gonna just touch on some of the bigger items because really that has been the focus for this month. It's been the Elbridge Health Police Department. As you all know, we did the, I am speaking in the best I can. It's not in front of me, but I will try hard. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, so we did a myriad of meetings with community, with the police officers, with the council members, and there has been, such a, I guess, a decline with our public safety over the past many months, and we want to address that. We thought that perhaps shift changes and personnel, changes would help, but we have not been able to address the need for more officers on the street, more visibility. So that said, the community has felt unsafe and expressed that to me and the other members of the council, so I did research and found a company that could do an internal assessment of our department and its operations to see what we could do better, what our strengths were, and how we could level it so that we are more accessible to the community and have that visibility that we need, especially during the critical shifts, which would be the night times and weekends. So that said, I did call in a independent consulting company, and I know a lot of you all probably received my letter when I expressed, this need and the need for the new interim chief to actually start the process of change and improvement. And so that is what has been huge for me this entire month, and we will continue. McGrath is McGrath Consulting Company is, or the firm that did the assessment, and they have not made any final recommendations as of yet, but they just gave us some preliminary recommendations and discussions. In fact, we're meeting again with them next week with the interim chief so that we can finalize some things. But we have a long way to go to get in the right place where, in terms of our standard operating procedures and just the way we conduct business, the way we operate, the way we schedule, the way we, promote. And we didn't have any of that in place. So now we have to do that. And we want this to be an open and transparent, department, as all of the other departments are. That has been my goal since I came on as village manager, is to get our reporting, the right way, get the documentation in place that we need to operate, and that's what we have to do for our police department. So we're addressing that, and we are again, welcoming our new interim police chief with that, who has a lot of experience in assisting with those things that we so desperately need. And we're having the public safety town hall meeting next week, which will give you, just direct access to that. And I think that would, give you an opportunity to ask questions and just hear what our 90-day plan is, and maybe we can have a little bit more in terms of where we are in the assessment from the independent firm. But that aside, we also have to conduct our other businesses, and that is, for example, code enforcement. We are trying to close out 2 troubled properties, working with those owners, and we are in a place now where we're kind of working on the lien settlements, and they are refinancing those properties, so that is a positive. And hopefully those properties will make a tremendous turnaround and will not blight the community as they have. And our code enforcement officer, Carlos Garcia, has been out on jury duty for the past 2.5 weeks, and he's not due back till Monday, so I hope his case will end. I mean, he's been extended a couple of times, but our police officers have backfilled where appropriate in their abilities to kind of help us identify some areas that will be getting, citations and what have you. For our planning and zoning, we are working with Serbia and SoulSmart. We're trying to bring our permitting and code up to 2018, 2019 standards with SoulSmart. We're addressing the need for solar and efficient energy permitting, and giving opportunities for people who want to do renovations or build in a way that is energy smart and solar smart. So that is something that we'll be working on. And we have a new building permit clerk coming on board on Monday. Her name is Blair Bublé, and she will be taking Miss Daisy Heisert's place as a permanent employee of the village, which will help us tremendously because Miss Heisert was contracted through our engineering firm, CAP Government. So we'll be welcoming her on Monday and instituting some of these SoulSmart recommendations and allowing us to be energy smart as we do our permitting and reward those who want to do that kind of renovation or building to their homes. Public Works, we are kind of holding our septic to sewer project just temporarily. Only we had to work out some administrative matters, but we're moving forward on that, and so hopefully we will be in a place where we can move that project forward once we get some land issues settled, and so we're looking forward to that. Our consultant, Robert Ruano, I believe it's already left, just applied for CDGB grant funds so that we can hopefully get some money from the county to help us with the road restoration once we do the construction for the septic system project or any other road work that comes along that could fit under that umbrella. And outside of that, I, again, continue to work on our police department. We have completed the general administration's employee handbooks as well as the emergency preparedness at a glance guide. So we'll continue to try to make improvements in terms of the administration and just getting things where they should be. We're a small village. We should, this is not hard work, but it is difficult when we have not done this work before. So we're starting from scratch, and I just appreciate that I've gotten the support of the council and a lot of the community members here and who aren't here tonight in that effort, because we're wanting to do things the right way. I mean, that's the only way we can progress. So that is it. Thank you.
That concludes your report. Any questions for the manager? I'll do it in good and welfare, not right now. I'm going to go into the committee chair reports. So the first one we have is Councilperson Mathis for Public Affairs.
Okay. We had Halloween. We didn't do the block party this year. A lot of the residents called for a traditional type Halloween door to door. So we did that. I did give out candy at the village hall. We had some people come visit, and a majority of the people were coming for the block party. But while inquiring, most of them didn't even live in the village. So a lot of people that didn't live in the village was benefiting from it. So we will take that into consideration again for next year to see how we go about doing that. We did have our turkey giveaway. A lot of the council members were out doing their own things, and we had to scramble to get it done because they gave us the turkeys, and they actually gave us some sides. They gave out a lot of mangoes, squash, bananas, so there was a lot to give out, and the residents who were chosen or contacted the council, they got their turkeys, and I hope they had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody else did have a great Thanksgiving. And with Christmas around the way, we've been working with the Women's Club, and we're going to do our tree lighting ceremony, a movie night, and it's going to be encompassed with the East Coast Railway Santa train, so that's going to be on December 8th, starting at 6:15. The train is actually running later now because of a big increase in the West Palm area. So the train will arrive here at 8:15. So the tree lighting ceremony will be at 6:15. Movie will start at 6:30, and then the train. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilperson Dre, who's the Chair of Public Works.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So I'm going to make my report a little bit more interactive here with the rest of the village management as well with the council members now that I have the opportunity to have you all here. First, let's talk about the septic to sewer project. Basically, I had an opportunity to get a chance to meet for the second time with Principal Lawrence. I met with him yesterday. There was a big uncertainty coming from the village management that the principal had some concerns on the easement for the septic to sewer project. As a result of the conversation with the principal, he has no issues with the septic to sewer pumping station. The concern was that how the project was brought in was that there were lumping two projects. That was the expansion of the nature trail and as well of the septic to sewer that were being treated as one package. His concern is being driven by the expansion of the nature trail, which actually I got a sense, a feel for actually walking on the field and what it means to what that expansion trail consists of. And it basically turns out, based on his soccer field, is gonna represent about 30% of that area, which makes no sense to remove, take away that entire piece. But he has no concerns. I did request for him to please document the information about no concerns of the septic to sewer easement on the pumping station location on the southwest corner of the school. So he has no concerns. That should not be, and he's documenting that. I also received some information that has been there, and I have some copies here, which is a second important point, that this project is at risk. The project is at risk. One of the reasons is because the way it works is we as a village are getting qualified an 80% loan to 20% grant, 80% grant money, 20% loan. Based from this email from the Tim Banks, DEP state of Florida, he's stating that there's, and let me share it here with the rest of the council members. I made several copies for them, where he's actually stating that funds are not being guaranteed after the next fiscal year, and for the next public hearing. And this is where I'm gonna make a motion, because I know we've been kind of lingering or postponing this public meeting since April, since when was it, Christia? From August, then we postponed to June. And based here on this notice here, there is coming from him, from Timothy Banks, that there is especially, the likelihood to exhaust the available funds for the upcoming fiscal year. I do understand that the actual funding gets replenished each year, but there's no guarantee that the upcoming year, we're gonna get that same amount of money to replenish for us to compete for that grant money. So there's where I'm gonna make the motion for the actual manager to have everything that is needed to apply for, make ourselves available for this grant money for the February hearing. I do not want to jeopardize us from losing this opportunity on receiving this 30% grant monies. And this is where I'm asking the council to have this motion and hear for approval.
If I may,
Excuse me, Madam, there's a motion on the floor. Give a second.
Second for discussion.
There's a motion made by Councilperson Gray, second by Councilperson Mathis, up for discussion. But I'd like to ask the attorney, I don't know what you were gonna say at the moment, but, this is, we've all been in meetings in the last couple of weeks on this subject. There is a lot involved and entailed at the moment. And there was a last meeting that I believe the attorney and the manager had last, maybe, not Thursday, Thanksgiving, but I think the week before, so.
On the 15th.
And the 15th. So we have not, I have not received an update from that meeting. There are too many variables from what I understood at the meeting that I'm not comfortable with adopting any motion to move forward until I have been fully versed on what they have said, and then we all can discuss collectively. Because there are, and also, if he's really comfortable about the easement, then it must be in writing, because I met with them, we went there, we donated, 25 turkeys, and the Women's Club donated, did the distribution. Never once in my conversation, and I tried to recap in an email to the principal, did I mention the nature trail. That conversation I've had more with the school board member, and I've tried to keep them as separate as possible because they're two separate items, even though at the end of the day, at some point, they're gonna be, combined because one affects the other in terms of probably construction and what have you, and we've gotta work smart that way. But if he does approve the easement in the location that you all initially selected, that's fantastic, but he's gotta put that in writing, and as soon as you get that, I would give the attorney, but, putting us in a predicament right now, I really would like to hear from the attorney, as much as you can divulge from the meeting that you had with them, but again, there are a lot, I mean, I don't know everything, but from what I gathered at that meeting, there's some serious things going on that we need to be concerned as a council.
Well, I was gonna give the highlights in my report, but I can do that now. But
Okay.
before I do that, I'm trying to make sure I understand the motion that Councilman Joy made. Is your motion intended to direct the manager to take all necessary steps possible to be prepared to apply for the grant funds for this fiscal year by February?
For the February hearing. And this is based, correct, on this email that, let me read it into the record, which I have provided you with a copy. It's coming from Timothy Banks, Roger, and this is being stated to the engineering firm. Roger, the limited site certification can be accepted for the purpose of placing the project on the fundable list. A construction agreement will still be contingent on receiving a clear site certification on a timely manner. We will need a written statement of what the issue is, why the agreement with the school board is still pending, and how to impasse the result. The site certification is part of the readiness to proceed process and is intended to assure that we will be no project delays caused by the land issues such as easement acquisition. Readiness to proceed is especially important this year since we will be likely to exhaust the available funds for this fiscal year during the next meeting, public meeting, which is scheduled February. So this is where my concern is. We have this risk of losing this opportunity to qualify for that 80% money of a $4 million project. So that's why I'm making this motion. Based on this email as well, the Timothy Banks Department, State of Florida, is requesting that a written statement of what the issue is regarding the easement be provided to him when we qualify for that February meeting. And that, to my interpretation, is a written statement from the applicant, who is the village, not the school. So that is the reason why I'm making this motion to move forward. And I see Christian and the mayor looking at each other. Is there a comment?
No, I'm actually not looking, I was looking at the attorney, because the
Yeah.
question I had for the attorney was, is $435,000 for the design, is the design done?
Okay. Right.
So, I mean, there's concerns here, there's valid concerns here, and I think that before we jump to spending any more money, because we've capped out the money, as far as the state's going to give the village, everything else is going to be on us now, I think it's important that we have those questions answered.
All right, let me answer the questions in reverse. We met with Pinoni to work out what's ultimately going to be an addendum to the existing septic to sewer agreement. And that's necessitated because the allocation of the flat fee contract has been exhausted. You may recall at one of the Public Works meetings within the last month or so, Pinoni came before the council and requested an allottage to the agreement with the state, which would require us to borrow additional funds to complete the design plans for the septic to sewer project. The instructions from the council to Pinoni and our consultant was to evaluate the billings concerning what was actually paid for under the agreement and why were we in excess of the flat fee contract. In the last several weeks, we've had, I'd say, at least 10 meetings on the subject, and the leave-off with the contractor, Pinoni, was that they were going to send us a proposed resolution of the issue. They did that last Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. It was forwarded to the manager. I requested that they also copy Councilman Dreer as the chair of the committee. And so that's where we are. The manager still has to evaluate it. I'm certain that within the next couple of days, there will be a response to it, which I don't really believe is going to upset the timeline that Councilman Dreer is suggesting. If his meeting is as fruitful as he's just described it, we would have a communication coming from the school advising that the location, I think this would be site number 6, I'm sorry, site number 7, is fine for the location of the pump station. So we would certainly be able to at least memorialize that in our transmittal to the state. And if the leave-off after that is only to submit the actual easement, we'd still be in the pipeline for the February meeting. But I guess the proof is in the pudding. We haven't gotten any communication back from the school, which shouldn't take that long if it's just a communication. But I think the real leave-off is resolving our issue with Pinoni, which I expect is going to be done in the next couple of days. So conceptually, I don't have an issue, and I certainly wouldn't have an issue given our posture with the contractor to move forward with the motion that's being made. It's just basically saying do everything to save the project. That's basically what his motion is, as I understand it.
If I may, I continue to work on the project. In that same email that you provided, it does say from Thomas Montgomery, who's also FDP State Florida. He says, Christia, the village will not be able to compete for construction funding unless a complete set of design is submitted, along with the associated permits and verification that rights to the property where the construction is to take place have been obtained. So I mean, that just goes to, once we have the property, once we have the writing of that, then there's no reason why the package can't be finished.
Correct. That's a correct statement you just read, but that's a statement based on how the wording was phrased. If you go back to the email thread, you see here, "Good morning, gentlemen. It's coming from you, village manager, to Timothy Banks." And the request is, "Good morning, gentlemen. To memorize our discussion last Friday, please respond to the following. When an incomplete Phase 1 design package be considered when requesting construction funds for the village to septic to sewer water project." By logic, they would say anybody will respond to how the question is being framed. That's why I definitely needed to get more clarity, and if you go through the actual email thread, that's where the clarification is made on the available funding. So there's where, like Norman said, I appreciate it. I'm trying to save the project. If we keep postponing to the next meetings of when the hearings are going to be heard about the grant money available that we qualify on a $4 million project for 80% I do not want to jeopardize this project. I'm making it to the whole council. I'm making it aware that we cannot afford to miss any other of this meeting. So that's why I'm making this firm motion. I believe in the project, and if everybody else in this podium believes in the project, we need to move forward for this February meeting. So that is the motion that I'm requesting based on this email here, based on Timothy Banks' response, with all due respect, village manager.
And with all due respect to you two, I want to see the project move forward too, and I have been working on it to move it forward, but without that land use or some type of certification, written statement, why the agreement is at an impasse. I mean, that's how I read that as well. So that's the only thing holding up the project, I assume, because we met with Pinoni and said, we're 8% away from being complete, we just need the land.
The written,
Once that's done.
I know you have a question, I just have, the question I have, when I walked out of the meeting, the easement was clearly a primary concern. But the other primary concern was the analysis that we got with the money that has been spent. All of the money that the state was awarding for the design has been paid to the vendor Pinoni, but we don't have any designs to show for it. So my question is, which is the question that I asked, which is I thought that the meeting was gonna entail to give us a question, is what is it going to cost to get this design, the complete designs? Because that cost is gonna come from the village of El Portal, not from the state. I thought that was one component, and then the other component was, can we move forward as long as we have the easement? Because the challenge right now is, not challenge, but did we not pay more, or aren't you not charging us more because we were told that it was not that easement, or all of the work has been done for that easement? So the design project that is not complete yet, we've completely paid for it already, we spent the
That's
money. It was done for easement 7?
That's correct. I mean, the contractor's here. The contractor has told us that if the current location that Councilman Dreher is referring to, that the school is fine with, that if that is ironed out and solidified, they're 8% away from being able to give us completed plans. He's here, he can come up and affirm that.
And what is, well, two things actually, because we are already overspent, because we haven't billed, we haven't paid.
That's the other part of it.
And
That's the other
there's a
part
bill
of the
we
issue,
haven't
Madam.
paid, so they've spent more money than was allotted for by the state for just the design portion of the project. And now, there's still 8% of the project that's not complete, because we haven't seen anything. So we have like, 140, I don't remember the amount that we owe you, plus 8% of the project. What is that what is that math gonna be that we're gonna have to pay?
Well,
Pinoni?
that's, you know.
I thought that the meeting on the 15th, those are the answers that I was looking for,
Well,
was
it
where are
was-
we gonna get the easement, how much is the 8% gonna cost, and how are we gonna pay the bill that was overspent
Well-
without telling us that the money was already all spent?
They're two separate issues, but unfortunately, they're tied together.
Of course, yeah.
And what Councilman Dreher's told us for the first time is that the school doesn't have any problems with the location. So if that's gonna be confirmed, we're only now dealing with getting that confirmation memorialized and solidified. And then second, working out the issue with Pinoni. Pinoni's, again, has told us that they're 8% of the way. They did send us a proposal as a compromise to the issue that you're referring to, having exhausted the 435, which was sent to the manager. I don't believe she's in a position right now to recommend one way or another whether it's something she's willing to recommend to the council, because she still has to, she can speak for herself, she still has to evaluate it with the consultant and with CAP to make sure that it is in line with what's expected to finish off the project. So if I can resolve it, because you can go back and forth. I don't see an issue with the motion, because the motion is basically saying, do everything you can to save the project, which is what we're gonna be doing anyway. I think where the work is gonna come in is, one, getting the statement from the school that Councilman Drain said he got yesterday orally, and then second, just working out the issues that we have with Pinoni. And based upon what they initially sent us, I don't think that we're that far apart. So I would imagine that within the next couple of weeks, all of those issues are going to be resolved. And at the next council meeting in December, you'll be getting a recommendation from the manager, and also we would have ironed out by then the site location with the school.
Did you have a comment?
I'm surprised that he got a meeting with Principal Lawrence quicker than I did, because I've been calling him for 3 weeks, and I haven't gotten a response from him
You know
at
how,
all.
you know how I made that meeting? You talk to him as plumber. That's his
Yeah,
assistant.
yeah.
I've called her
actually
3
gone to the
times.
school.
Me too.
And he
And
wasn't there.
3
so-
times.
And
And-
he told you that there was no problem with the easement.
Okay, let me ask here the question. Has anybody else spoken with the principal?
I spoke to him twice, but then we had this other issue,
Because-
and I've called him, I've sent him an
Okay.
email as well, and I haven't heard back from him
Perfect.
almost 3 weeks.
But I just asked the question, has it, because I know during previous meetings, some of the folks have volunteered to go talk with him. So I'm asking this question then. Has anybody spoken with Principal Lawrence?
I met with Principal Lawrence on 2 separate occasions. I don't have the exact, probably like November, the beginning of November. I met Darren, who's a new sort of, they call him a junior, I guess, assistant principal. His name is Darren Jones. He's really going to be the go-to person because Principal Lawrence has a lot going on. And I met with Darren Jones, Ethel Sethwood, and which is the AP, and Principal Lawrence. The discussions I had with them, I did not touch into very much Nature Trail or the septic to sewer. I really went in after all the emails that were going back and forth, and I've put together a program with their student government and their Ladies of Essence. And then I also met with them to confirm that we were delivering the 25 turkeys. So I went more on that aspect, and while I was doing that, I didn't bring up the septic to sewer, the Nature Trail. I didn't think it was a good time. I wanted to more pacify sort of the conversation. And then after that, I invited them to the cancer walk that we had, and the conversation has been sort of going along that path, and then back and forth in the emails, and they put me in contact of the young lady who addresses all of the children who are homeless, and that's how we chose how the turkeys were going to be delivered to. We gave them not only did I gave them extra, Councilperson Mathis and Maribel Fruitstone delivered the rest, and then on the day of distribution, Maribel Fruitstone went and worked with them to do the distribution. I asked her because I was going to be out of town. So I kind of I left it more along those lines, you know? We have,
trying.
but no, you know what? The reason it matters is because in the email that he sent us, he wants us to develop a relationship with him. He wants he said in the email that if he feels like there's more of a community and a development of a relationship, and we go there and talk to the students, that he's more inclined to work with us. He put that in a very elaborate email and in a meeting, which is why I went there, and I went to sort of pacify that part of it. So, and then since then, I've been keeping the conversations. But I think that as long as we get them in writing. Vice Mayor Nickerson, did you have another comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much, really quickly. So I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing 3 different things going on. I met recently with Principal Lawrence, and we spoke for maybe about 45 minutes. But just beside that, so I'm looking at here. So the one thing is Pinoni, our administration at Pinoni, and what you brought up, Madam Mayor, which is the 8% with the easement, and if that is in direct relation to the money that still needs to be paid from being over already. Because if that doesn't work itself out and we never get the design for the easement, it doesn't matter at that point if the school approves it or not, if we can't get this part worked out. So this part needs to be worked on. So there's 3 things that need to happen simultaneously. This part needs to be worked on. Also, and when I spoke to Principal Lawrence, he told me the same thing, Councilperson Dreher, that he told you. He said he has no problem with the easement going to the southwest corner. Yeah, I said that. Southwest corner. He did say some other stuff about the Nature Trail. Right. That's what it is. I told him, I said, well, what you need to do then, I said, you need to, because, I worked in the school board for so long, I said, what you need to do then, you need to contact your regional supervisor, which he said he was going to do. I said, and then you need to write an email. I said, and this is, and you guys know I'm transparent with everything that I do. This is exactly what I told them to do. I said, if you have a problem with the septic sewer, the sewer easement being confined with the nature trail situation, I said, look, I said, you can do this if it makes you feel better. I said, you can write an email to your regional supervisor saying that you approve and have no problem with the septic tank going into the southwest corner of the school, but you want to save discussion of the nature trail at a later time. I said, if that's what you want to say, I said, you can say that. Send that to your regional supervisor. I said, because I know how the school system works, it's politics also. I said, he's going to have to approve that and then get it back to you so then you can send it to us. He said he would start working on that. I said, do that because I don't know how long it's going to take. So that's already in the works, hopefully.
How long ago was that?
This was a week ago. Thank you. Yeah. So that's already in the works, right? Also, besides that, what my last question is, right here on this email where it talks about a construction agreement would still be contingent on receiving a clear site certification in a timely manner. So your concern, Councilperson Dreyer, is in February this meeting takes place, and that we need to have things ready in a timely manner. My question to either Councilperson Dreyer or the manager or whoever, or Pannoni, whoever's working on this project, what would be a timely manner? Because if they consider a timely manner that you have to have this stuff submitted 2 months out or a month and a half out, or, I mean, we have to know that, because if that's the case, we need to tell Principal Lawrence we need that email back by this time. And we need to have Pannoni say we need the design done by at least this date. You know what I mean? And we need to have all this taken care of. So we need to find out, somebody needs to contact them and say, when you guys say a timely manner, give us a date to when this needs, our latest date to when this needs to be submitted to you guys. So we need to find out.
If I could just answer about one timeline, we want to be on the December agenda for the school board. So that's why we need this written, whatever, documentation of the conversation that Principal Lawrence has had with you and with Councilperson Dreyer, so that we can take that to the school board and they can give the final approval. That's what we have to have. So that will be in December if we can get this writing from Principal Lawrence. And because, yeah, that's the only way we can then move on to the February. So we do want that.
No, definitely. But if
I don't know the exact date. I'm sorry, maybe Steve Elias may know the exact date of the school board meeting. I know there was a December meeting, but I don't think it's the beginning of December, but it's, you know.
yeah, but like for example, which and I didn't mean to cut you off. So you were saying we need to be on the agenda for the
right, to get the school board to then approve that land.
Yeah, to
So then we take that with our package.
So that will be, and I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to stop talking. I know I've talked too long. Sorry about that. But that would be the last thing, because the attorney said that we're all working. You guys are working on it. We're all working on it, which is good. And maybe this can come back to the December meeting. But if this has to be submitted like right before the December council meeting or right after December, it's the holidays, and it's like, so we need to get a definite date on what they consider a timely manner. While everything else is taking place and working simultaneously. We definitely get that date, though. Thank you.
No, it's okay. So there's a motion, and I just want to clarify, there may need to be an amendment. I think that there's not a problem necessarily moving forward. I think the concern from, at least my concern is the cost of that 8% of what is it going to cost, and the balance that's currently owed to you. I think you said you had an agreement. So I think there needs to be contingencies as well. If we're going to move forward, it's contingent upon what's the cost of the 8%, what's the contingent of what we owe you, and of course the letter clarifying the easement. Without those three components, it'd be hard to move forward.
The next school board meeting is December 19th at 11.
I'm sorry, quick question, Christia. Have you put yourself into the meeting, into the agenda for that meeting? Have you requested attendance or hearing? No? We're just hoping that we will, okay.
No, it's not that we're just, they know we are interested, we keep saying it.
But
we
when,
need to
yeah.
get something from the school that says that we can have it.
Yeah.
We can.
But can we just?
You can't request if you don't have anything to request.
Yeah,
you just can't say, I want to be at the meeting. It has to be an agenda item.
So a point that Vice Mayor Nickerson brought out is timeline and dates. So if we can get the timeline as far as what's realistic, if you spoke to the principal a week ago, I've met with him 2 weeks ago, you just met with him yesterday, and now that you have this information, call him and give him a deadline of what we needed by. Because if the deadline to get on the school board, and not only that, the school board, to get on that agenda, there's a deadline.
Actually,
So-
I see this more as an administrative task. He's already committed to having this, so it's the administration to be following up on this. This is my request. And
So
they
let there
have
be
the,
an email?
let me clear this. We have an administrative folks here. They have, plenty of time here. We also have already committed. I want to make sure this is also prioritized as her items in the next, next 6 weeks that we foresee, because I know, Christia, you get bombarded by all of us, but the reason why I'm bringing this to the table as well, I want to make sure that all the council members here are in agreement that this is, help us please talk to
May I-
him and get that.
May I make a suggestion? I think that if you and Councilperson Nickerson have gotten this okay from him, I think it would be best suited that you two, one of you two, get it, because evidently, he's not responding to her. He's not responding to me, so you guys must have something, and, I mean, if you can get it, get it.
It's just simple follow-up. I had to call 4 times. Actually, it's just a matter of following up. It's your due diligence, just following up. I know, and Ms. Porter said, she even confused me by you, she had called. You had called, actually.
Several times.
So this is where my request is. We have an administration that has the time, the due diligence to make sure they get on the calendar with Principal Lawrence and agree with this. So that's my request. I want this to be prioritized as well for the village manager to get with the principal as well, committed.
I will say to that, and that I do call Principal Lawrence regularly. As you may recall, I sent him a long memo about the partnership offerings that we wanted to do with the school board, or with the school, because that was part of the issue that was raised in my meeting with him.
Correct.
So I will call him
Correct.
tomorrow
But
again, and I will continue to call,
An
but
em-
he never calls me.
an email, people do not read email sometimes, Christie, I apologize. But I did read the email as well from the proposal, and I'm insisting, please reach out to him, insist and then I have to go with you, I'll go with you.
That's fine. I also mailed the letter as well, and took it over there as well, and left it for him, so I understand that. I've tried a number of times to get through to him, and I wanted to, do some other things, so I understand about the bombardment, but no, this is a priority. I understand that there's timeline, so I will continue to follow up with him, and I'll call him again tomorrow.
Thank you.
There is a motion that was made by Councilperson Drake, second by Mathis, that needs to be voted on and/or amended with regards to ensuring that if we move forward, which I think we are in agreement, it's contingent upon the fees and the easements. There's no point in moving forward if we don't have the fees discussed in the easements. So I'd like to make a recommendation for a motion that this motion to move forward is contingent upon that we have the easement written by Principal Lawrence and on the agenda for December, as well as the costs that we are now going to be having incurred already, because all of the monies have already resourced or used.
Just to add clarity on that written statement is not being requested from the school. It's being requested from the applicant. And I'm gonna have the engineering firm actually come up and correct that if that's not the case. So if you allow me to, I'm bringing the engineering firm to just clarify that written statement that the DEP state of Florida, Timothy Banks is requesting, it needs to come from the village and not from the school board, just to add clarity. So,
Yeah, based on my experience doing this for 25 years, we've done that several times. The form you're referring to is set up for instances where applicants can't get the easement prior to applying for construction money. You just fill out this form, and the statement that they want is, what is your written plan and schedule for securing it to allow you to apply for construction money now, so that doesn't hold up and jeopardize your chances of getting construction money. And I do want to say, just real quick, because I want to be on the record on this, in my professional opinion, after working in this program for 25 years, your last chance, in my professional opinion, to get this grant is for the full $4.8 million, 80%, is February of 2019. If you do not get it at that meeting, he's telling you in that email, this year's funds, which is actually 2 years of funds that have been built up due to the slow economy, are gonna be gone, and you're gonna be back to a normal allocation of funds, which is half the amount. And instead of being able to get $4.5 million, you're probably gonna be able to get a max of $2.5 million. So when that happens, instead of having a $55,000 a year loan payment for 20 years, it increases it to $100,000+ for 20 years payment. So this February is it's the last shot, the last quarterly opportunity to apply for the construction money, in my professional opinion, for the full amount. And I want, and that means you need to be shovel ready by February. That doesn't mean have a council approval to accept the easement. We've got to go finish the design at the new location. We started it. We were under contract to design it at another location. We got to finish it at the new location, which we discovered in June. That's why there's a need for additional money to redesign the project. So we're negotiating that. I think we're close on that. But I want to stress, if you're not shovel ready, which means we need to be engaged to finish the design and secure the permits from the county, who's all going to be on vacation for the next month. So that's going to be the uphill battle the longer we wait to authorize us to move forward.
And a quick question, you mentioned a form. Has this form been socialized with the administration? Is that part of this written statement that it's been mentioned here?
Christie assigned the form, and we submitted it back in July when we thought we were going to apply in October, or at the August meeting. We had committed on that form. We provided that written statement in July. At that time, Robert was saying we were going to be on the July agenda for a school board easement, but that, due to nobody's fault, and at the meeting with the commissioner, the school board revealed, they weren't going to let us put it there. But now we have a new location. We need to readjust that statement on the form. We could have applied in November, but we missed that.
Steve, how are you?
Yeah.
How is your day, Steve?
I'm doing fine.
I understand that DEP may require that only a letter from the Village of El Portal, but there is no way that I would agree that I'm going to speak, or we should speak, on behalf of the Miami-Dade County School Board. If they don't give it to us in writing, we should not be saying that they said okay, because conversations are great, you got to reduce to writing to mitigate lawsuits. So I really believe that they need to have that in writing. That's number one. It cannot come from Councilperson Dre, it cannot come from the manager. It needs to come from him in a letterhead, not in an email, in a letterhead. That's my first thing, and I'm not an attorney. The second thing is, we also need to be better partners here. You need to be a little more proactive as it relates to the expenses and where we're at and timelines, because we've been working together for almost 2 years now, next May, and all of us here ask for timelines, and we don't get there, and we're always rush, we gotta pay you, and then look what happened, we used up all the money, and now we don't have the design. So you're telling us to be in a rush, but you don't have the design ready, and we've already paid you.
Well,
hold on. The council all voted for this project. The residents have come to town hall. They want this. In fact, forget about they want. We need this project. It's what we need. I mean, we can take a look at climate change. We can take a look at sea level. We need this to happen. But you have to steer us in that direction. And you have to be a little more, mindful in letting us know if we reached our budget, what are we doing? You're the expert. We're not in this. You're the expert. So please, Councilperson Dre has, gotten this far. Now we're going to have to follow up. We're going to try to get the letter, but you also have to let us know, not the day before, what the cost of the 8% is going to be. Just as like we're giving deadlines, you need to give a deadline, because right now we owe you all this money because we've used up all the money and we don't have a design. So let's all set realistic dates that we're all going to follow, Steve.
Just to add some clarity, and just to be fair to Steve, who has been put a lot of effort, and to give him credit as well, based on that individual sessions we all had as council members, with Christia, with Robert, with our village attorney, and with CAP, Basically, the way it works is we have $435,000 for the design phase. There's a stipulation in the contract, based on what they sign. If there's a change, and I have here a copy that I asked them, where is in the contract states, if there's a change in the pumping station, there is and this I also got it during that meeting, there's an agreement that needs to be assigned by both parties on that change of the location. And what happened? The change of the pumping station was changed from location, what was it, number 3 to number 7 now. There was that whole stipulation in the contract that says, and here's the contract that I was forwarded, because I asked that same question. I wanted to see it. I asked for my village management as well to provide it, but I had to go and ask them to actually send me this. And there's a stipulation in the contract, just to be clear, that if there's a change in the pumping station location, both parties are subject to agree on that change. And that's what they have proposed here. They sent a resolution to Christia, to Norman as well, and the actual $85,000 that they were originally proposing is being reduced to $60,000. And that's what the next steps is, Christia, to review this with and to come for that proposal for us. But and just let me add to something as well on the timeline. We also have contracted a project manager here, Robert Ruano. Where is here and him in the audience? He's responsible for keeping the metrics, which is another deficiency that I uncovered based on this meeting we had. We don't have, as a project manager that we hired from the village to oversee the help from the Pinoni team, we do not have any metrics. And when I speak on metrics, we do not have what's the percent complete on the project. What I was given by the project manager was an email by the Pinoni team. Oh, this is what the Pinoni team provided me, that percent complete. I said, no, I'm sorry. You are the project manager. You are responsible for maintaining the percent complete on the project. Where is your timeline? You need to get all that updated for us and you when you come here. But I don't see the project manager here. And that is another concern that I brought up to Christia. We're now paying $2,000 per month to the project manager. I want to see specifically as well from what he's doing for the next couple of weeks. I want to see where he's spending. I asked Christia yesterday. What is Rolando project manager doing? And what was the response? Stuff.
I didn't say stuff.
I have a couple of questions. Councilperson Dre, I have a couple of questions. You are stating that because since you brought up the contract, I'm going to add to that. You have an email that Steve Elias sent with regards to the change of the location. What's the date in the email?
The 15th.
The 15th of what month?
Here.
No, when he not the contract. When he told us that there was a change in site.
I don't have that email.
Oh, I thought you did.
No.
Because to my recollection, after the meeting that I had, what had really happened was the money ran out in May, but we already knew that you all knew that the site had already changed and the money had run out, and we were still being billed. That's the first thing. And the second thing, since Councilperson Dre brought up the contract, that was a contract that was done by David Roseman and Joe Geller. And I sat in that meeting, and no one else did, and I told the attorney back then, and I told David Roseman that agreement and that contract is not in the best interest of the village of El Portal. I'm sorry, it's in the best interest of you, but it's too ambiguous. And I was like, oh no, don't worry, Mayor, and David Roseman signed it. So that contract, yeah, it lends for extra costs, there's no specifics. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but I'm gonna bring that up because you brought up the contract. And I have the contract in my file for Pinoni, and I was really specific, but there was different players back then, it was a different attorney, and it was a different manager. So unfortunately, we're stuck with this contract for this project. But there are concerns. I mean, it's not to say that, we're not doing our due diligence, but Robert Ruano was here. Did you tell Robert Ruano that you were gonna be discussing this at Public Works? Because generally at our committee reports, they're not as entailed, so maybe, just like before Juan left, Juan asked the clerk to ask me if I was gonna need him for planning and zoning. Maybe we should have told Robert Ruano, because I was gonna ask you, why isn't he here?
I requested Robert Ruano during our one-on-one meetings we had to send me meeting minutes.
Okay.
I sent meeting minutes. I requested for him to send me meeting minutes, our conversation I had with Norman, with Christia, with myself. And
Well,
I'm
no, the
waiting
other
on those
concern that
meeting
we have-
minutes right now.
Okay, so I mean,
Yep.
definitely if he needs to stay here, he needed to stay here, that's 100%.
This isn't Public Works, it's a full council meeting, it's just, it's a
So-
report that's,
With that said, in an effort to move forward, there's a lot of different variables involved, and they all involve timelines. So if the motion is to allow the administration to do as much as we can to push the project forward, which I believe we'll all agree, there has to be contingency. The contingency is a letter from the school board saying, the principal saying that this is the easement that they authorized on letterhead. Then we need a cost from you as far as what the cost, the 8%, because we still don't have a design. And then the other costs that we owe you, there's something that you all are working on that you gotta present to us. So all of these, we need, so as the council asks you all, what timeline do we wanna give, the principal and Pannoni to get us these numbers? So that we can meet the deadline, to be at the February, and we need to find out what the school board deadline to get in their agenda is.
Who's gonna find out that deadline to get into the school board agenda?
Who?
Who's gonna get to that point you just made? Who's gonna find out the deadline to get into the school board?
Yeah.
You will? Okay.
So, okay, so the manager will find that tomorrow. I'm sure that the deadline is something that you can call any of the administration there and find out. And then once we find out the deadline, what's a realistic deadline that we can give the principal? He told you a week ago, yes. He told you today, yes, or yesterday, excuse me. So is it realistic maybe next Friday? That we want the letter from the principal by December, I think next Friday is December 7th.
I'll stay on top of that. The problem is with the school system, the school board, is that, and I'm not speaking for him, but if he could just sit there and write the letter, that'd be one thing. But he has to send it out to his regional supervisor. They have to approve it and get it back to him. So I don't know if the regional supervisor, he could be out of town. Like, I don't know. So let me talk to him tomorrow. Yeah, let me talk to him tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the school tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're gonna go to the school in the hopes that he's already been doing this, because he spoke to you a
Yeah,
week
he's
ago.
already been
So maybe
doing
he's already sent the letter to the regional superintendent,
Yeah,
okay?
that's-
And then you're gonna let the manager know, and the manager
I
in turn will let us
definitely
know.
will, yes, for
But
sure.
when you go speak to Principal Lawrence, we gotta push for a deadline
Yes,
date.
yes,
And that's the date that, if you've already discussed for a week, I would say next Wednesday, Friday the latest. Especially it's contingent upon the deadline to get into the school board agenda.
If I could
So
just make one point, and this involves Norman, just for the record, we provided the legal description of the easement back in June, I think, to Robert for the pump station at number 7. I'm assuming there has to be an easement agreement. I'm not sure if Norman I'm not sure if the school board attorney does that, but that's probably an action also that has to be prepared
That
to
would be
get on
part
the
of the
agenda.
conversation they can have. I mean, usually it comes out of the school board and the county side, and then we look at it. But if I had to draft it, I could just use the legal description.
There's a sketch and a description, and it's actually granted probably to the county, because they're the ones that'll maintain it.
Yeah, usually they draft it because they were drafting it for the nature trail. But either way, so we also need, along with the letter, we're gonna need the easement agreement or contract that's gonna come
Put
from
on the
school board.
agenda.
So you're gonna, when you find out the date tomorrow to get on the agenda, you gotta let Vice Mayor Nickerson know. So when you go see the principal, hopefully
I'm gonna go see him regardless.
moved it, and we can hopefully have the letter by Wednesday. Wednesday, December 5th? No, Wednesday, December 5th. Yeah. No, 12th is like 12th.
Yeah, the following.
Okay. And you have a deadline, you have information to get to us.
We've submitted the addendum, revised, reduced. We stand ready to come to the council meeting and explain it if we have to, and we just need to get on, I just fear it's
So
getting
you have
impossible.
excuse me, I'm sorry. So you have the cost of the 8% already?
Wait, you sent this?
Oh, okay,
That's what I
you
mentioned
got
last
that,
week
okay. So,
On Wednesday, yeah.
okay, so you need to have a discussion, and can we have that by Friday via email sent to the council? Friday is what, November 30th? Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to move on, but there is a motion that needs to pass, or it needs to be voted on. So there is a motion made by Councilperson Dre, Councilperson Mathis. Councilperson Mathis just had to leave, his mother fell. And that motion is to, let's get the project moving forward, contingent upon the following deadlines that we have just put in place. Deadline number 1 is the manager will let Vice Mayor Nickerson know tomorrow the date to get on the school board agenda. Number two, Vice Mayor Nickerson will meet with the principal and will hopefully have a letter on letterhead to us by Wednesday, December 5th. While that is happening, the attorney is going to work on whether there's an easement that the school's going to do or he's going to have to do, all in the hopes to get onto the December 19th school board agenda.
And as well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but my main interest is that we submit this for the February hearing.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, we're
That's
doing,
the main-
we're
yeah.
doing all this. Remember, this is a motion to move forward with all of these contingencies, yeah. And I think the only contingency I'm missing is, the last one is you have to let us know what the cost is for the 8% by Friday, because you've already received it, okay. So that's Friday, November 30th. So there's a motion with these contingencies, and there's a second. Did you have something to say before I ask for roll call?
I was just gonna say, I do want to, find out, Councilperson Dreyer or the administration and the village manager, when they say timely manner, can we get a clarification of a date to where it has to be submitted by for that February meeting?
I can answer that question. As long as you fill out the form, you just have to list what your schedule is. Technically, you don't need to secure the easement until the final punch list of construction. I used to think it was prior to bidding it. That's probably not smart to do that. But you do not have to secure the easement until, I'd say, prior to bidding realistically. So you can apply for funding in February and still not have your easement in hand. That's what the limited site certification form allows you to do. So the timeline he's asking for is just put the schedule. What is your schedule?
Okay, so there is a,
Yeah, it's not what he's asking for. I'm not saying you're wrong, I love you, my brother. Can we double check on that? Can we double check on that? Because the email does say exactly what Councilperson Roman just said. Yes, can we do that, please? Thank you.
I actually made a motion with the amendments. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion?
Can you repeat the motion?
There's a motion to move the project forward with the following contingencies. Number one is the manager must call the school board tomorrow with regards to what is the deadline to get on the agenda. I'll pass that information on to Vice Mayor Nickerson. Vice Mayor Nickerson is going to be meeting with the principal in the hopes that in the last week that he's already met with him, he's already sent the letter in, and we're gonna have the letter by Wednesday, December 5th on letterhead. In the interim, the manager is reviewing the documentation that Panoni has sent to the manager and the attorney with the cost that is gonna be cut back and the cost of the 8% to finish the entire design of the project. That you should have to us by Friday, Friday, November 30th. Also, while this is happening, the attorney is gonna be working on the easement or working with the attorney with the school board to be sure if we have to do it, then we're doing it. If they're gonna do it, then they're doing it. So we have to find that information out, and that should be coincided with the Wednesday, December 5th deadline. And all this to get on the December 19th school board agenda, and of course, to meet the deadline in February. That is my motion with the amendment.
So actually, I would say just make sure we are in that public meeting, make sure in that DEP, the DEP public meeting, which is stated here in the email, which is scheduled for February 2019.
But there's no date, yeah.
Yeah.
So all of this is to push the project forward to meet the deadline to be at the public meeting that's set for February 2019. That is my motion with the amendment, and it's been seconded by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, we get roll call.
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson that's left. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Does that conclude your report?
My other piece of the
Oh.
report is that if we're gonna move forward, and this is something I've discussed as well with Christia, we're gonna move forward with the construction piece. I see this deficiency with the project management area, so I want us to be very stern looking into, from our side, the project management capacity we've hired from, this firm, that they can actually provide those metrics, keep up with the percent complete, as well be on track as what has been the percent, what's the building that is coming in, help us kind of oversee that, because from that meeting that we had, all the $435,000 grant has been exhausted already. And my question was, okay, fine, it's a two-end, Madam Mayor, it's a two-end communication as well.
No, go ahead. I just have to ask for something about the agenda.
But I need you to be paying attention to this, please. So I'll wait till you guys finish. Are you guys done?
Go ahead, Councilperson Davis.
Doesn't seem like we're done. So may I? All right, so part of this meetings as well that we had on our one-on-ones for at least 2 hours with the city manager, with the attorney, we've got to make sure that we, as in our capacity as a project manager, we've hired that firm, that they're overseeing what's the percent complete, how much are we going ahead and making sure we're billing, we're approving for that billing from the state grant money. Because what happened is, in this particular case, the $435,000 grant has already been exhausted. And to your point, what's the end product? So my concern was like, why did we go ahead and just approve all that entire grant money when we don't even have an end product? What's the end product that we were talking about? It's the actual design piece and as well the actual permits. So we don't have that. So my point was like, why did we authorize to get that approval of that entire $435,000 in grant money? So that's what I want to make sure that we move forward when we eventually get to that construction phase, that we have that strong resilience from the project management perspective to be keeping track as well, those metrics, those what has been part of the complete of the project and as well what's being paid. So that was my recommendation to the village manager as well. So that pretty much concludes the report that I had in mind.
So you'll meet with Robert Ruano?
Apologies for, yeah, but it needed to be, believe me, I'm sorry, and my apologies for the audience. We've been trying to push this for the last 3 months, 4 months to what we got here. So we needed to have this discussion.
Okay, you'll follow up with Robert Ruano? Absolutely. Okay. Next, we have Administration and Finance, Chairperson Roman.
I don't have anything to report. The manager reported everything.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you have 10 more minutes? We'll be done in 10 minutes. Admin and Finance, that concludes your report?
Correct.
Okay. The last two reports are Planning and Zoning and Public Safety. They're both committees that I chair. You know, so I had a whole report written out, and I was going to read it during my mayor's report, but I decided not to. It just sort of goes over things that I do on a day-to-day basis and how we work with the administration. And because we have several residents here, one of the things that I wanted to touch on is public safety and social media and being up here elected. It's not as glamorous as you all may think it is. In fact, it's not glamorous at all. It's gotten, whether it's the world that we live in today, or whether it's social media, that everybody loves to be behind social media, it's really rough. And I think residents forget that we're human, and we have families. And as we are going to be sworn in this evening, you all may think it's, funny, but I don't. A resident told me, but why do that and just leave it alone? And you know what? You're right. It would be so much easier for us not to do anything, for us to come every month,
for us to just go through the agenda, and it would just be easier. It would just be easier. But, I truly believe in the 10 years that I've been here that we're trying to really do what's in the best interest of the village. And I do believe that most people can get comfortable in positions. But, I don't. I sincerely believe in what I do. I live here, I work here, and in the last year and a half, it's been really interesting. I get a lot of anonymous letters calling me everything under the sun. My husband, my family, it's all over social media, and residents call me and they're like, why do you do this? And well, somebody has to. And, what I always admired about myself, I'm not one to really talk about myself, but, when I got elected in 2008, I'm the same person today. I still work at the same passion. I still work at the same energy level. I don't work any less. I don't care any less. In fact, I care so much more. And what really has saddened me, I think, is that although I have built great relationships with a lot of you, I've lost a lot, and I don't even know why. So, so much happens in this village that the residents don't know. So much happens to the administration that the residents don't know. We get bombarded with public records requests, and we don't even have staff, and we're trying to juggle public records requests because if we don't do it, then we're not complying with the law. And then, we have to get jobs done, but it's hard to get the jobs done when every other email is a public records request. And you all may think that crying is a sign of weakness. There's nothing about me that's weak. It's just really disheartening. And I will do it, and I believe in giving term limits to pass the baton because I think it's important. But just remember, we're human, and we live here, and I pay taxes, and I think most of us here pay taxes. And I care a lot, and I'm not going to sit back and allow any administration to just walk all over the village because, no offense to administration, but they don't live here, we do. And we care. So when we have to hold the manager, the chief, the clerk, and every employee accountable, I'm going to do it because it's our job, and we have to do it. As hard as it is to do it because you create friendships, you begin to care for people, but you lose friendships because you try to do the right thing. And what you all may see as being rude or disrespectful, you have no idea what we go through on a day-to-day here trying to get things done so we don't have to bring it to the public. So that we try to get things done, because by the time we get to you all, we've exhausted all those resources and options to go in private and have these meetings and address it, because we want nothing more than all of us to thrive. I don't want the city to be bankrupt. I don't want my property values, my 2 property values, to go down in the village of Albertal. I don't want the kids that my school takes care of to be unsafe. I really care. And maybe it doesn't look that way to you all. Maybe it doesn't look that way that we care. But I can wholeheartedly say that it would be so much easier to leave the status quo. It would be easier. Leave the manager, leave the chief, leave the clerk, leave all the all the people that have been here forever, and let them just run our town. Let them. We can do that. It would be easy. It would be so. We'd come every Tuesday, the 4th Tuesday every month, and we'd pass the minutes, and it would be so easy to leave the status quo. But I refuse to walk out and have left status quo, because when I'm done being the mayor, I'm still going to live here. I'm still going to own properties here. I still run a business here. I care. I should, the whole line of I work, live, and play. I literally work, live, and play in this town, in the 1.4 radius. And I care. I care that the police department is doing the right job. I care that they have what they need to have. I care that the administration is responsible for that. If you think for 1 second that I'm nice to Cristia or I'm nice to your niece, no, I'm nice if you're doing your job, because you all hold us accountable because you're supposed to. We have to hold them accountable. How would you think that that's wrong? It's not. And you cannot come to one meeting
and understand it all. It's too hard. You know, that's why you all elect a government so that we can do all this, you know, on our spare time. And when most of us, and I'll speak for myself, I put in 30 to 40 hours a week at the Village of El Portal. Why? Because you all elected me to do that. And I do it. I don't care if I get 1,000, I don't care if I get 2,000, I don't care if I get nothing. I remember I was one of the ones that told Jason Walker, get rid of the stipend. Because, I mean, what's 3,000 or 2,000 a year? But I just say to you, just, you know, you don't have to like us, you don't have to agree with us, but just ask us. Just email us and ask. If you don't like our answer, then come to the meeting. But you cannot come to the meeting and expect to understand that material that Erwin gave us. It's impossible. And then you don't think it's hard. I mean, I don't know what the council is, but I see you all, and you all are nodding your head no. You don't think that. I think, like, wow, I work so hard. And I do it because I care. And I've put myself in that position. So be a little mindful, because we are all human. And a lot of you have been really unkind, anonymous, not anonymous, next door, Facebook, emails. It's been really ugly, beyond ugly. And I felt it was really important to say, because as I go into my next 2 years, I'm going to continue to do it with heart, because I have done it for 10 years. I will battle all the residents that, you know, fight because you want the administration that has been here forever, even though they don't live here, and we really care what's happening here. And I encourage, I implore, call me, text me. Most of you have my number. I usually try to reach back as soon as I can. But don't just assume. Actually call us. Actually meet with us. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
The attorney, Norman Powell, your report.
I pretty much gave it just the highlights. We worked on the interim police chief's contract, the resolutions for the meetings, and we've been having numerous meetings concerning the septic to sewer project, and you pretty much got the highlights of it in the last discussion.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. You're back. Okay. So right now we have the swearing in Judge Pedraza. Thank you for waiting. So you can go ahead and have the floor.
At this point, I'd like to call down the council members and swear them in now, and then I'll swear the mayor.
You need to swear in. Yeah.
All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. A citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Florida. And that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the Village of El Portal. And I will faithfully discharge the duties of council member on which I am about to enter. Congratulations. Caballos, a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Florida, and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the Village of El Portal, and will faithfully discharge the duties of mayor on which I am about to enter.
All right, thank you, Judge Pedraza, for staying a little late with us here. Next on the agenda, we have, at the first meeting of the new council, we have the selection of the vice mayor. And at this time, I would like to ask any member of the council, if you are interested in being considered for the vice mayor, if you would please go to the podium and, for a minute or two, tell us a little bit about why you believe that you should be the next vice mayor for the next 2 years. And then what happens is the council, somebody member has to nominate. There's got to be a second, and then we vote on it.
How you guys doing? How's everybody doing? Good to see everybody out here tonight. How you guys doing? Man, been vice mayor for many, many, many years. Yeah, I said I've been vice mayor for many years. One thing that is really different tonight is simply
The mic's work.
Are we good here? Are we good right here? All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. One thing that is different tonight is that when I was just here, I was given when we were doing the swearing in. This is the first swearing in where my kids aren't with me tonight. It's the first one. So they've been with me every swearing in before this. But when everything is good all the time, things are really easy, It's when things aren't so good is when you really realize just how the world can be, but what the type of person you need to be able to handle everything that comes towards you, And I've always, I always used to think that when you I used to always think like in life, if you go through life and you treat everybody nicely and try to do the right thing all the time, that everything would always just be happen nicely to me. I always thought that. And then, just going through the situation with my wife and all that went on, it really opened up my eyes as far as how how somebody can look into your eyes and change your life so quickly, just like that, like from 1 second to another. And for them to take everything you ever worked for and to say, you know, I'm going to destroy your life. You know what I mean? It would have been one thing if I would have let that, you know, affect me to where it affected my work, right? Affected my position as vice mayor. When this happened, it was November the 5th. It was November the 5th. Throughout all that time, and going through all those situations, I missed one meeting. Counting not only council meetings, but committee meetings, I missed one meeting throughout all of that. And the only reason why I missed that meeting was because I was in court that night. Tried to get out on time. Her lawyer kept, you know, wanting more time and more time. Couldn't get out on time. But, and they'll tell you that, I mean, there's been times where, you know, the 80th anniversary or things like that, where I'm talking about something, you know what I'm saying, and it gets to me, right? But every time I was up here, I always had a smile on my face since this happened. Every meeting, I was always cordial to everybody. I never let any type of stress or any type of sadness of just, you know, losing everything overnight. I never let it affect me up there. I never brought my problems to work, so to say, you know. I've never gone around and just pivoting, because I don't want to talk about that, you know, too much and bore you guys with that. But I've never been the type of person to where I've been devious about anything towards anybody. You know, I don't run around and talk about people behind their back. I try to help out every situation that's there. If there's a situation where people aren't getting along perfectly, you know, I always say to everybody, I'm so transparent up there. I mean, recently there were situations to where there was problems with, you know, the police department and individuals on the council. As soon as I found out those issues, the next day I was having meetings, right? The manager was like, those are my people, right? I was having meetings with everybody, even though I wasn't involved in that situation. What's going on tonight with Councilperson Dreyer and the sewer and Public Works? I'm not on the Public Works Committee. I'm not even on the Public Works Committee. But I went and met with the principal. Did I tell anybody up here before I went and met with the principal that I was going to meet with them? No. But even though I'm not on the committee, I still went and met with the principal. See, you guys all know that I'm half African American, half Native American, right? My dad's African American, but he left when I was like 3 years old. My mom's Native American. She lives in South Dakota. She's a Sioux, Blackfoot Sioux. She lives on the reservation with her whole family. We've never celebrated Thanksgiving, but I've never put my personal feelings and said, because I feel about this personally, then I'm not going to do it in my job. This is the first time. Look at their face. They don't even know about this. We've never celebrated Thanksgiving, but I'm always here to support the village for Thanksgiving. I've never brought it up. All right? So, and whether it's, you know, conducting my committee meetings or things like that, I try to always bring everybody in, be inclusive with everybody, you know. So I just think that, you know, I've done what I can as vice mayor. There's much more for me to do. I'll continue to bring everybody together. I'll continue to work hard. I'll continue to stand up and never let anything personal that happens to me affect me in my work environment. You know, I love all of you guys. even those, you know, who I might disagree with, you know, and I tell everybody who's ever been up there, I've told them, I say, look, we all want the best for the village. We just have different ideas on how to get there. That's all it is. We all want what's best for the village. We just have different ideas on how to get there. I think I've been a good vice mayor. I think I've been a good second to the mayor. When you guys see me there, unless I have something to say, I sit there humbly, you know, keep my mouth shut. I let the mayor lead. I never try to take her shine. I never try to outshine anybody or try to be in the limelight or anything like that. And I humbly ask for your vote as vice mayor to continue and become a better man than I've been so far. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Any other member of the council that wants to be considered for vice mayor, please go to the podium.
Harold Mathis. I am the senior member on the council. I have worked my butt off tirelessly for the village. This past term really put things in perspective to me with regards to not only chairing public affairs. I took cues from a great leader. And coming into politics, I was always taught to just be quiet, listen, and then you speak. And I've always practiced that. And there was a person that came in, and I took her under my wing. Didn't want to, but took her under my wing, and that person is now the mayor. And to say that the teacher doesn't become the student, that was lost on me, but I think I've been taught by one of the best. With that being said, I am going to announce my candidacy for mayor for 2020, and I hope I can get your vote for vice mayor so I can continue the legacy.
Thank you. Any other member of the council? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to nominate any of the two applicants that have put their name forward?
I motion Nickerson.
There's a motion for Omar Nickerson. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
It's been seconded by Councilperson Dreher. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
No.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Well, you got 3 votes. Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Does he have to be sworn in as vice
No.
mayor? Okay. Would you like to say anything? Would you like to say?
I've said it, I think.
Okay, you said enough. Okay, good. Okay, at this time, good and welfare. Now you can ask the manager questions. I know and state your name and address for the record.
David Ward, 488 Northeast 90th Street. Actually, a couple topics I wanted to ask about. One is the septic to sewer project. Sitting there, and maybe I'm guilty of what the mayor said, is popping every now and then and not understanding totally what's going on. But when I was sitting there listening to the discussion about the septic to sewer, my reaction is that there are too many chiefs and not enough Indians in this project. And so, to be honest, I was quite surprised when Councilman Dreher said that we have a project manager on this. So question I'd like to ask Councilman Dreher and Councilman Nickerson is when you met with the principal or you met with Pannoni, was that project manager with you? And if not, why not?
All right, so as I stated when I was down there speaking, I'm not on the Public Works Committee. When I went to meet with the principal, I went as like the vice mayor to meet with the principal. I called a few times, couldn't get him, and so what I did was I just showed up. And
I understand. So my question was,
and
to
eventually
both
met
of
with
you,
him.
is why the project manager, the person that we're paying to oversee this project,
Yeah.
the person that we're paying to manage the funds, to make
Yeah.
sure that as an administration, we do the right thing.
Yeah.
Why was he not there?
Yeah, so I think for me, the short answer is simply, sometimes in order to get everybody's schedule clear, in order to get those meetings done with everybody's schedule, it would take, another week or something like, and I just wanted to meet with him and get that part established so I could get him to get that communication out to his regional supervisor, so I didn't wait.
And did you provide a written
To-
report to the
to get
project
that
manager
done.
or to anybody on the administration?
I did not, no.
And same questions for you, Councilman Jura.
So,
Was the project manager with you? I guess that's the
yeah,
first question.
and so you understand the background in this. The project manager and the village manager had already met with the school principal a couple months ago, right? There was then brought the concern that the principal was requiring some, I guess, leadership or some more presence from the village. So, we took it upon ourselves, right, to actually have that face-to-face introduction with the principal. So I met with him on 2 occasions. So the way it worked the first time, I took the day off from work.
I understand,
no.
and I'm not criticizing.
No.
I
But
appreciate
just-
people
but
taking
just
those
to
meetings.
Give you some background here as well. It's been a little, hard to obtain, I walked in myself, right? Just actually I called Christia, who the project manager reports to on that day. And unfortunately, Christia has other items to review. So I met with him that time. I informed the rest of the council members. I think the project manager was here. And I informed my meeting discussion with, in respect to the septic to sewer pumping station, that there was no concerns about it. And I informed this, I think it might have been in the August meeting. I informed to everybody this. So I got some, I guess, not everybody was in the same page that how is it possible the principal told the project manager and the village manager this other information that he told you. So I went ahead and tried 3 times. I called the administrator at the school.
I'm not
No, but just
I'm not
so-
asking you
so-
to take me
no,
through all the
but-
points again.
but I'm
It's a simple
gonna-
question. Why
yeah.
wasn't the project
But-
manager with
but-
you or with you?
Correct.
And my concern is
No, but
that there's so many people dabbling, there's
Correct.
nobody managing the project.
Correct. And that's, just so you understand how it works, I tried 3 times directly trying to find a meeting with him. There was no response. I finally, on yesterday, I took the day off. It was a short minute. I spoke with Ms. Plummer. I said, Ms. Plummer, I've been trying to get a hold. This has been the 3rd time that I've been trying to speak with the principal, right? And what's going on? And you know what she said? Can you make it here in the next hour? After trying to meet with him I immediately actually have a text. I sent it to Christia, right? I said, Christia, can you please call me back? That was an hour notice. I said, Christia, can you call me back? I'm sorry, I'm attending a luncheon at this time. So receiving this email, right? And the project managers, I like to go through Christia, everything. So being the case she had and having this email, yes, I took it upon myself to go actually meet with the principal and to get that information. It was the 2nd time. So yes.
Let me.
Yeah,
Or is it tonight?
so Councilman Jura, no.
Well, if I may, the project
Okay,
Actually,
hold on.
if everybody will have their turn at the
Everybody has a
microphone,
chance,
so
yeah,
if, let
May
me,
I just answer for the project manager?
Sorry?
Even though, I try not to speak for other people, but he is under my purview. And the project manager has gone to meet with the principal on a number of occasions, and I've gone with him. And sometimes you just have to pop up. So that is what Vice Mayor Nickerson and Councilperson Dreyer are, saying, that they too had to pop up. But the project manager has been very involved in the project, and there are some things we will have to discuss. In fact, I was scheduling a meeting with him tomorrow morning so that we can talk more about just more, addressing some of the concerns that Councilperson Dreyer had, and perhaps, addressing these things so that we all are on the same page and we know. So we will do that, but he has been involved and he goes all the time.
Okay, so thank you. In my opinion, it's a very important project, but it appears from a bystander that it's not being managed well, and the cost overruns. I keep hearing that Pannoni says that they're 8% from completion. From the village standpoint, we're really at 0% because we've paid them $435,000 and we have nothing. And so my concern is who the heck is managing that? Is it the village manager? Is it the project manager? So I'm not expecting an answer.
I wanted to speak about the payments. It wasn't that they billed us every month and we reviewed and got deliverables from that. It wasn't billed that way. We got a bunch of bills all over the course of a couple of months, mid-year, I would say between May and June all together. And we were assuming everything was on schedule, and we would submit to the state. We asked for deliverables and those invoices from Pannoni. They said they didn't have to do it. It was a flat fee. The state accepted them and paid us the money, so we paid Pannoni. So that's how it kind of got ahead of us with overpayment.
Okay.
Or paying all of it.
Okay, thank you. So my second subject, and I'll try to be brief before they accuse me of talking longer than Omar, is regarding public safety. And just a couple things. In fairness, everybody on that podium, everybody in the audience is concerned about public safety. So I don't think anybody should discount anybody else's concern about public safety. If you're a resident in El Portal and you don't know your neighbor across the street, and you don't have their phone number, or you don't have the neighbor to the left or the right or on the other side, see me after the meeting. It'd be great to set up a Crime Watch group on your block. Now, Northeast Miami Court is well represented. Thank you for being here. I think it's great that residents challenge elected officials, but I think it's also great if we do it in a respectful manner. I think it's good if we don't leap to conclusions. And I'll give you for an example. We walked in here, there was a whole gallery of police from different police forces, and already heard the conspiracy theories about what was happening back there. So whatever your viewpoint is, whatever you think the village needs to do or it doesn't need to do, just please make sure that you have the facts and don't jump to all kinds of conclusions. But again, if you have an interest in forming a Crime Watch group on your block, I'll stick around a little bit after the meeting. That's probably the easiest thing we can do to help make the neighborhood safe. I'll give you, for example, last week on our block, one of our residents was out of town, pulled up to the phone list, called me first and said, hey, my fire detector is going off. Can you go across and check it before I call the fire department? I said, no, I'm out of town. So she went to the next person on that phone chain and called them. She ended up calling 3 people. She actually had 3 people go to her house and check on it. And that's really what Crime Watch is all about. So if you don't have Crime Watch in your block, please see me after the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, David.
Liliana Pico, 181 Northwest 87th Street. Congratulations, everybody. Hi, Claudia. Miss Manager, a quick question. Going back to Council Dreyer's question is, why did you pay $435 if you never questioned where is it going to?
It wasn't that we didn't question it, we did, but it was a flat fee contract that if they submitted the invoices, and we were all on schedule. We were actually expecting that we were going to the FDP, the state, in August. So we were moving fast and everything was coming together. We didn't know we were going to hit that roadblock from the county saying that that location wasn't acceptable. So they submitted the invoices. We kept asking, can you please give us some details? We don't know what we're getting, but it was a flat fee contract, and they weren't compelled to itemize it. So that's,
So if we do miss a deadline in February, does that mean we lose $435,000?
No, it means that we will go to a May meeting, and then we'll be out of, if we don't get through the May meeting, then we're out of the fiscal year, but we could apply for the next fiscal year. Now, what Mr. Elias was stating is that that 400, or that million, $4 million may not be available for the next fiscal year. We're trying to get the money for this fiscal year. So we want to, we do want to move this forward. We're just waiting on the land so that they can complete the project. And another thing that, we've been saying 8%, but that's not altogether fair to Pannoni, in that it did state if there was some change to the location or some specs, that it may be 10%. It depends on what comes from the land. So we still need to negotiate that between us as administrative, but once that's done, I hope to clear that up by Friday so that I can make a recommendation and we can move forward.
Okay, super, thank you.
Congratulations to all of you. My main concern is the police department.
State your name and address
Safety.
for the record, I'm
I
sorry.
already did it, but anyway.
You have to do it
Philip
again.
Andronicus,
Make it
147 Northwest 87th Street. You stated before the manager, Christina Lua, you stated that you had a McGrath come in to do an audit on the police department, correct?
Yes.
Who paid for that?
Village of El
El Portal. Who decided that they should come in?
I did.
You
As the
did?
Village manager.
You personally said, was it a bid, or did you just say, oh, here's the phone book, I'm going to look up, oh, McGrath, why don't you come in?
No, that wasn't how it was done.
Exactly, that's
always
why I'm
have-
asking. How, was it a bid,
No, it was,
a choice? for you?
I went through different companies that did this work, and I presented that to the council, some of the council members from
Okay.
Admin and Finance, and I made the decision based on our needs and based on the services that the other.
And what I understand
firms-
before.
It was a bid. I guess it was
Okay,
a bid,
fine.
in terms of they did give
Okay,
me quotes.
there was no bids, there was nothing, it was just your personal choice which you
No.
did that.
No, it wasn't. They did provide me a quote for the services that we wanted.
One company,
No.
many
were three.
companies,
There were
3 or
three.
4 companies,
It's the
okay.
practice of.
Do we have a
at
record
least
of
three.
that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fine, thank you. Could we have it one day when we write in for it?
Yeah.
Okay. The cost of McGrath, what is it?
Well, it's the cost for what they are doing for us now is just over $4,000, and that's the assessment.
$4,000 over what period of time?
Just for this.
For the whole thing,
assessment.
total?
No. It may
Exactly,
be
that's what I'm
more
asking. What's the
things.
total cost?
No. We don't know what the total
Oh,
cost
we
is
don't
because
know.
right now,
Oh,
it's just
okay.
the assessment. There
Okay.
may be something that comes from that we will go back and ask them. to
Don't
do
you
more, but
think
as
that money
present-
would have been better to put into the police department?
No, that's not a good
No.
long-term
No, it
solution.
wasn't. Okay.
I mean,
All
the
right, just,
salaries, if we spent $5,000 and broke that up between officers, we still need to get our department where it needs to be. We still need to
Yes.
get all of
Well,
this
you brought in a
standard
new police
operations.
chief. Whose decision was that?
That was mine as well. I
That was
went
your
through
decision as
different-
well?
because
To
of
take
our-
away Ronnie and then bring in this new police chief? And the cost of the new police chief, is it less than Ronnie or more than Ronnie?
It's the same as Ronnie was.
It's the
as
same
interim
as
police
Ronnie
chief.
was. Okay, you said it was from retirement, I understand. He came out of retirement to come and work here. I thought he was doing a course for the wildlife, Florida wildlife.
It could have been.
It's 8 months, that course. I tell you why. Because my son-in-law, he's in Florida Wildlife. My daughter is becoming a police officer. As I said before, I carry a badge from Homeland Security, so public safety is something I'm concerned about. And the way that it's being run and the way that it's being done, I don't agree with it. I really don't. Okay? That's just my own personal
Yes.
opinion. Nothing personal to any of you on the thing.
And just as a point of clarity, interim chief Perez is retired from the city of Miami Police Force.
Well, it's an 8-month course to go into Florida Wildlife. He knows that, right? Correct?
No, I spent,
I'm sorry, if you could.
less than 3 months, right after I retired, with them.
It's an 8-month course to go there.
No, that's.
In Tallahassee.
That's a basic recruit course. I was already certified, so I'm only.
No, you can't be certified for Florida Wildlife if you're a police officer.
Sorry, we have the major and the commander. I only went for 9 weeks.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
I know my son-in-law, he's in Florida.
Sure, I can
Okay.
provide you the 9 weeks course that I attended in Tallahassee.
I'm done. Thank you very much. I'll go home.
Anybody else in Good and Welfare? Hearing none, I'm going to close Good and Welfare. At this moment, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Mathis. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the meeting adjourns at 9:42 PM. Thank you.